Look at the grocery receipt for a moment. Not the glossy ads, not the end cap display. The receipt. That is where the truth usually shows up. A cart that used to feel manageable now feels lighter, and the total keeps climbing. You may walk out with fewer bags, the same basic items, and a number that makes no sense. That feeling is not in your head. Grocery shopping has become a harder environment to read. The pressure is built into the shelf labels, the package sizes, the promotions, the store layout, and the little habits most of us were never taught to question. So let's do that now, calmly, without blame. Because this is not about bad budgeting. It is about a system that hides value in plain sight. And once you can see the system, you stop getting pushed around by it. The first trap is the one almost everybody misses. The shelf price is not always the real price. You see two boxes that look similar. One is $4.99. The other is $5.49. Your brain says the first one is cheaper, but that is only the start. The real comparison is the unit price. Price per ounce. Price per pound. Price per count, when that makes sense. That tiny line on the shelf tag is often the only fair way to compare products. And here is why this matters so much now. Package sizes change. Labels stay familiar. A cereal box looks normal. A pasta bag looks normal. A snack bag looks normal. But the contents quietly shrink and the cost per ounce goes up. If you do not check unit price, you can pay more and think you found a deal. The correction is simple but powerful. Train yourself to glance at the unit price first, not last. It does not take long. In fact, after a few trips, it becomes automatic. You stop reacting to the big number on the front and start seeing the real value underneath. That leads us straight into trap number 2. Shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is one of the most frustrating grocery tricks because it does not feel like a trick. The package looks familiar. The brand looks familiar. Sometimes the flavor looks familiar. But the amount inside is smaller. A chip bag has more air. A frozen item has less weight. A cereal box is thinner. A bottle is a little shorter. Nothing announces itself. It just happens. Older shoppers often notice this first because they remember what things used to look like. That memory is useful. Not because everything was better before, but because it gives you a benchmark. If a product you buy regularly suddenly seems to disappear faster, or the box looks slimmer in your hand, trust that instinct and compare it. Look at the ounces. Look at the count. Look at the serving size if that is the relevant measure. Brand loyalty can make shrinkflation easier to miss. You trust the item. You grab it. You move on. That is exactly what the pricing system hopes you will do. The correction is not to distrust everything. The correction is to verify the products you buy most often. The items you know best are the easiest to quietly overcharge. Now let's move to a trap that feels helpful at first. Promotions. Sales can be useful. Real sales exist. But a sale is not automatically a savings. It only helps if it matches what you need, what you will use, and what will not go to waste. Buy one, get one, offers look generous. Multi-buy deals sound smart. 3 for $10 feels like a win, but if you only needed one or if the extra item will sit in the cupboard for months, the deal may cost you more in the end. That is especially true with fresh food, limited shelf life products, and items that only get used occasionally. There is a simple question that cuts through the marketing. Would I buy the extra unit at full price if there were no sign here? If the answer is no, then the sale may be using urgency instead of value. And there is another layer. Promotions often nudge you to buy in a category you were not planning to touch. You came in for milk, bread, and fruit. Then a limited time display catches your eye. 2 for $1 crackers, a family-size bag of snacks, extra dessert items. Suddenly the basket is heavier, but not necessarily more useful. The correction is not to avoid every promotion. The correction is to let sale-based extras stay optional. A deal should serve your list, not rewrite it. Trap number 4 is harder to see because it does not look like a trap. It is the store layout itself. Supermarkets are designed to move you around. Essentials are often placed in a way that makes you pass more displays. End caps are valuable real estate because they grab attention. Eye-level shelves are there for a reason. Products at eye level are more likely to be chosen. Lower or higher shelves may hold better value, but they are easier to miss. That means the store is not just selling food. It is steering your attention. Think about the last time you went in for a short list and somehow ended up on the opposite side of the store more than once. That is not accidental. More walking means more exposure. More exposure means more chances to make a decision you did not plan to make. The correction is to enter with a route, even a short one. Know the few sections you need. Do not drift. If you notice yourself browsing because a display looks tempting, pause and ask a simple question. Was this already on my list? If not, it may just be store theater. Trap number 5 is one most households pay for without ever seeing it on the receipt. Packaging creates waste. This is where grocery costs become sneaky. Not all waste is caused by buying too much. Sometimes it comes from how the food is packaged. Bags that do not reseal well. Containers that make it hard to store leftovers. Produce that bruises faster than expected. Fresh items that look good in the store but decline quickly at home. Every time food goes bad before you use it, that is money leaking out of the cart. Food waste is not only an environmental issue, it is a hidden price increase. You paid for food and got less usable food than you expected. You do not need to become obsessive to fix this. Just pay attention to the items that consistently spoil on you. Maybe it is salad greens. Maybe it is berries. Maybe it is bread. Maybe it is large packages you cannot finish in time. The answer is not to stop buying them entirely. The answer is to buy the amount you can realistically use before it turns into loss. That is protection, not restriction. Now let's talk about one of the biggest markups in the store. Convenience. Pre-cut fruit, pre-sliced vegetables, ready-to-eat trays, prepared items from the deli. These can be helpful. For some shoppers, they are worth the extra cost because they save time, effort, or strain. But the markup can be very large. A whole vegetable often costs far less than the same vegetable cut up and packed into a convenience tray. That is not surprising once you think about it. You are paying for labor, packaging, and speed. The problem is that convenience starts to feel normal when you see it often enough. For older shoppers especially, this can become a silent budget drain. It is not that convenience is wrong. It is that convenience should be chosen, not drifted into. If a shortcut truly helps you use the food and avoids waste, it may be worth it. If it just saves a few minutes and costs far more, the store wins, and you lose. A useful habit is to reserve convenience for the few items that genuinely protect your energy or prevent spoilage. Everything else can stay under review. Trap number 7 is more modern, but the logic is the same. Loyalty systems and digital deals. Stores love digital coupons because they make pricing harder to see at a glance. The shelf says one thing, the app says another, the loyalty card says another, the membership offer says another. Now you are no longer comparing simple prices. You are trying to decode a system. And that system can work against casual shoppers. If the best price only appears after you scan a phone, join a program, or remember a specific step at checkout, then the real burden shifts to you. Missing one step can mean paying more than the person who mastered the app. That does not mean these offers are useless. It means they should be verified quickly, not trusted automatically. If the deal is hard to understand, the deal is not helping you. The easiest deal is the one you can confirm in seconds. This is a good moment to pause and reset the way we are looking at the whole store. Take a breath for a second and ask yourself this. What am I actually trying to do when I shop? Not win. Not prove anything. Not become perfect. You are trying to bring home useful food with fewer surprises, less waste, and less regret at the register. That is a very different goal from chasing every offer or memorizing every trick. And once you understand that, your mindset changes. You stop blaming yourself for not doing groceries better. You start recognizing that grocery shopping is often a test of attention, not intelligence. The stores are designed to make value harder to see. Your job is not to be flawless. Your job is to be harder to manipulate. That is a stronger identity, a calmer one. Now let's clear up a common mistake about store brands. Private label products are not always the answer, but they are not always second best either. Some are excellent, some are fine, some are not worth it. The mistake is assuming the store brand is automatically cheaper in the way that matters. What matters is the combination of unit price, quality, and how you actually use the item. A cheaper product that gets wasted is not cheaper. A more expensive product that lasts longer or works better may be the better buy. The point is not to worship one category or reject another. The point is to compare honestly. In some categories, store brands are a very sensible move. In others, the difference in taste, texture, or durability is not worth the switch. The consumer skill here is not brand loyalty or brand rejection. It is category awareness. When you understand that, you stop buying labels and start buying outcomes. Trap number 9 hits when people are tired. Checkout fatigue. By the time you reach the register, your attention is low. You are ready to be done. That is why checkout lanes are lined with temptations. Candy, gum, tiny gadgets, small treats, last-minute items that look harmless because they are small. But little extras add up fast, especially when the main grocery bill is already high. And fatigue makes people more likely to accept substitutions, overlook mistakes, or stop questioning the total. The store knows this. That is why the end of the trip is often packed with pressure. The correction is to treat the checkout like a review point, not a finish line. Scan the cart, check the items, look for anything that wandered in without a clear reason. If the total feels off, pause before paying. Not with anger, just with attention. A calm check can save more than any impulse item ever could. Trap number 10 is the hidden cost of convenience in the home, not just the store. The food that gets forgotten. A package can seem like a bargain until it sits in the fridge and turns into loss. You bought it. You meant to use it. But the packaging made it harder to store, harder to reseal, or harder to remember. Then it gets pushed to the back. By the time you find it, the value is gone. That is why organization matters, but not in a fussy way, just enough to see what you have. A fridge that hides food is quietly expensive. A pantry that buries duplicates is quietly expensive. If you cannot see it, you are more likely to buy it again. The correction is visibility, not perfection. Visibility. Now let's look at one more common trap that feels helpful and can still cost you. Bulk buying. Bulk can save money, but only when the item is something you truly use, store well, and finish before it expires or loses quality. Buying a larger quantity just because the unit price looks lower can backfire if half of it goes unused. That is especially true for households that do not eat through certain products quickly. There is a difference between stocking up and overcommitting. Stocking up is a response to real use. Overcommitting is a response to a price sign. The correction is to ask one practical question. Will I use this amount before the quality drops or the novelty wears off? If the answer is uncertain, the lower unit price may not be a real win. And if you ever feel the pressure to buy more because the package is larger, remember this. A bigger package is only a better deal if the contents stay useful in your home. Trap number 12 is one of the simplest and strongest. The list disappears. Not the physical list, the mental one. People walk into the store with vague intentions instead of a short, clear plan. Then every aisle becomes a debate. Should I get this? Is that a deal? Do I need this extra item? The longer you browse, the more likely you are to buy on mood instead of need. You do not need a complicated system. You need a repeatable routine. Before the trip, make a short list of what you actually need. During the trip, check unit price on the items that matter most. Watch for package changes on the brands you know. Treat multi-buy deals as optional, not automatic. Ignore limited time language unless the item was already part of your plan. At the register, review the cart one last time before paying. That is not extreme. That is disciplined clarity. And when you do it a few times, something important happens. The store stops feeling like a place where money mysteriously disappears. It starts feeling like a place you can read. That is the full pattern. Groceries cost more, Not because every shopper is careless, but because the shopping environment is built to blur value. Shelf prices hide the real comparison. Shrinkflation changes the contents without changing the familiar look. Promotions push more than you plan to buy. Layout shapes your movement. Packaging creates waste. Convenience carries a premium. Digital systems make the true price harder to verify. Checkout fatigue lowers your guard. And all of it works together. Once you see that system, you can move through it with less pressure. You do not need to panic buy. You do not need to stockpile. You do not need to turn grocery shopping into a battle. You just need to protect your attention. That is the real currency here. So on the next trip, keep it simple. Look at unit price first. Compare package sizes. Question sales that do not match your actual needs. Choose convenience only when it truly earns its cost. Use store brands where they make sense. And do one final check before you leave the register. That is how you waste less, overpay less, and leave the store with more control than you had going in. If this helped you see the grocery system more clearly, stay with the Consumer Crisis Report. The next time you walk into a store, I want you to feel calm, prepared, and a lot harder to fool.